He really is. And to be honest with you, I believe that part of his sarcasm is in the fact that he gives them a little bit of credit that they don't deserve. And here's what I mean by that. Because he's saying this is basic. But when you think about what they said, all three of them said the exact same thing. Um, you suffered tremendous loss in your health and in your wealth. And that is because of sin. That's the whole thing right there. Lose the stuff is because of sin. That's their whole equation. And so the fact that he even puts them on equal footing with him is part of the sarcasm in my mind. This is not one of those things I would argue about. But what I'm saying is he gives them more credit than they really deserve. Because when you think about it, what Job is saying is that he's telling them, you really didn't say anything heavy. But what he's really saying, when I read it, is that you haven't said anything. Because a child could come to a conclusion that if something bad happens, it must be because of something bad you did. That is basic humanity 101. That's not even crossing the spectrum of divine things. Because the divine things have to do with understanding the intricate connection to glorifying God through suffering and affliction. And these guys have no understanding of it. And see, wisdom, he says, you think wisdom dies with you. But think about it. Job is going to be the one who understands the benefit of his afflictions. He's going to be the one that understands. Because it is clear that so far, Zophar, Bildad, Eliphaz, these men, none of these men have been able to speak to Job in a way that you can say that they can identify. None of them have said, Job, I can identify with you. I've gone through this. We've heard nothing like that. And so if you haven't suffered like Job, how is it that you can speak about things that only wisdom can make you understand, particularly if wisdom is the result of what you learn through experience? Job is gaining a new dimension in divine or spiritual experience that is going to increase his wisdom and his understanding and his learning, increasing his dependence upon his God. And so he's really telling these guys, you haven't said anything really. This is Christianity 101. This is what you learn day one. Which is what? What you sow is what you reap. Sowing and reaping. That is essentially basic Christianity. The only problem is, in this particular situation, it's way more complex than that. It's far more complex than that. Sean and then Canaan.
Yes, I'm just glad to be here this evening. But yeah, I think to your point, he gave them way more credit than they deserved.
Yep.
And he's basically telling him, I have understanding as you. I'm not inferior. And he gave them that credit, but they didn't deserve it
Mm-hmm.
simply because you have knowledge. Yeah, I got knowledge too, but you
Right.
lack the wisdom. You have a basic formula, but you don't have a relationship with God,
Mm-hmm.
because the formula is, oh, you do bad, you get punished. That's a
Right.
basic formula. That's basic human understanding.
Right.
But you have to have a relationship and wisdom to go way beyond that simple formula,
Mm-hmm.
that simple equation.
Mm-hmm. So, Sean, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. What does the world call that? We call it the principle of sowing and reaping. What does the world call it? What do you think?
Well, I think that, I mean, I guess you do wrong, you get punished in a way.
Yeah, but what would the world call that? They don't believe in punishment if they're an atheist. Like, what does the world call it? A couple of people said it in the comments, but
Um,
what does the world call it? What we call sowing and reaping, what do they call it in your mind?
oh, I see what you're saying. Karma. They
Yeah,
call it karma.
karma. That's right. Karma. Karma. That's what they call it. And so there's something that is ingrained in mankind. So when you think about it, what Job is saying to them is that you haven't transcended like you think you have. What you're telling me is not transcendent language. What you're talking about is something that is common to all men. It's secular. It's carnal. We call it sowing and reaping, but the world calls it karma. The only difference is karma has a result of, accidental things or fatalistic things or whatever. But when it comes to sowing and reaping for the Christian, we know all of it falls from the hand of God himself. And so so Job understands that whatever happens, as we know, whatever happens, it comes from the Lord. Brother Canaan, go ahead. Canaan and then Lisa.
Good evening, everyone. God bless everyone.
Good evening.
Good words. I wanted to hone in on verse 2 for a moment and then parallel it with a different book and passage. It's not very long. So in Job 12, we see 12:2, he says, "Truly then you are the people, and with you wisdom will unalive." And a couple of interesting verses come to mind with that would be Proverbs 26:4, which says, "Do not answer a fool according to his foolishness, or you will also be like him." And then Proverbs 17:14 says, "The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so abandon the quarrel before it breaks out." So with this is some realistic application that we can take and apply to ourselves when we have things said about us, brought against us, slander, whatever it might be, and we need to remember these passages and have discernment when we should respond or when we shouldn't, because it's wise to not respond just as much as it is to have a verse or be led by the Lord to speak. It is also important for us in our maturity and our growth to not speak sometimes,
Right.
to not allow a quarrel or to not answer somebody who is unwilling to hear correction or hear the truth. And so I believe the Lord gives us discernment with those aspects to avoid fighting, because we're not supposed to be quarreling people of God. We're not supposed to be fighting people of God, but we do stand firm on foundation of truth, which is the cornerstone of Jesus Christ, and so on. And then I want to parallel this with what Paul says in 1 Corinthians, starting in 1 Corinthians 4:9, and let this weigh on how we are going to be treated like Job is by his friends, but also will be treated like this by the world. And so it says, beginning in verse 9, so, "For I think God has exhibited us, the apostles, last of all, as men condemned to unalivement, because we have become a spectacle to the world, both to angels and to mankind. We are fools on account of Christ, but you are prudent in Christ. We are weak, but you are strong. You are distinguished, but we are without honor. Up to this present hour, we are both hungry and thirsty, and are poorly clothed and roughly treated and homeless. And we labor working with our own hands. When we are verbally abused, we bless. When we are persecuted, we endure it. When we are slandered, we reply as friends. We have become as the scum of the world, the dregs of all things, even until now. I do not write these things to shame you, but to admonish you as my beloved children." And so with that being said, we should expect, if we're truly resting in him and following his statutes and his ordinances, that we will be treated as Job, but worse. But we know that Christ has already endured this, and he's already gone through it, and we see that through his life. And so expect it, brothers and sisters, because it's going to happen.
Amen. Sister Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, you said something that karma, that word, and people prefer that word because it removes God from the equation. They
Right.
prefer that moral cause and effect, and that's basically what his friends were doing. They were using karma because they were saying, oh, you had to have sinned. That's why you're being punished. But God's righteousness is rooted in his nature, not just the outcome. So they were talking about karma rather than the righteousness of God.
Sister, let me tell you something. That's pretty good. That's deep. I'm gonna tell you the reason why. And that's exactly how they're speaking. That's exactly how they're speaking. And I never thought of that. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Because they didn't know the reason why Job was going through this. And that's what Job was asking for. Tell me the reason. Karma doesn't have reason. Karma only looks at the outcome and makes an assessment. If something is bad happening to you, it has to be because you're bad. Brilliant assessment. Didn't think of it. Brilliant assessment. I love it. It's true. But when we talk about sowing and reaping, we're talking about something that is known. You know, that God knows, that God discloses to us in a lot of ways. But karma is just, it just looks at the outside. So I love that. I love that. I really do. Really, really good assessment there. So in Job chapter 12, verse 5, Job says, and this is going to be a tricky one. And Brother Jeff, I'm going to come to you and ask you about this, Jeffrey. He says, he that is ready to slip with his feet is as a lamp despised in the thought of him that is at ease. Brother Jeffrey, interpret this for us. Give us your best.
Yeah, okay, Jonathan, hang on. I want to read that from my Bible here. I was in the other room. I slipped in here to say something to Joni real quick.
You want me to come back?
All right. No. Let me say this here. Those who are at ease have contempt for misfortune, as the fate of those whose feet are slipping. I think what he's saying here, Jonathan, he says those who are at ease has contempt for misfortune. People that give no effort have contempt for people who do give an effort and fail. Does that make sense, or am I off track here?
Well, I think to be honest with you, that's a really bad translation. But it's
okay.
yeah, it's really bad. Because there's one part in it that's missed. That's the part about the lamp being despised.
Right.
So that's the part I want to get to. I want to deal with all of this, because because it paints a much better picture. You know what I mean? So that's just the translation. That's not you, but I think you got the beginning part of it correct. It's true.
Okay. All right.
Sister Lisa and then Mariah.
Okay, let me give it a shot.
Okay. I love this.
So, a lamp is despised in the thought of one who is at ease. The lamp are those that shine with the light, the truth, the light of Christ. They are despised. He's saying they are despised with those who don't concern themselves with that stuff. They're at ease. They're not. They're not worried about such things. For instance, his friends, they're all about spouting the truths of what they know. But again, they were without love, like Meg said, clanging cymbals. They weren't doing it. Their hearts were not right. So he's saying, what I think it's their feet are about to slip out, and they'll soon see the truth. But he's just saying, basically he's saying, you despise me, and you're not, but I think he's trying to tell them, you don't know the Lord as much as you say you know the Lord. You're despising me, yet you're the one who's about to take a fall. I don't know.
All right.
That's kind of what I thought.
We're going to get there. It's a tricky verse. This is a tough verse. Sister Mariah and then Sean.
Now, I did see this little footnote in mine. So it's saying it's equating the lamp to disaster. So, and if that is the case, then disaster is despised about those people who are at ease, and his friends are in a state of, they're not going through a disaster. So they're comfortable and cool, calm, and collected, and despising Job for the disaster in which he's going through. And it says, it is made ready for those whose feet slip. That one's getting me, because I'm not too sure on that part, so I'm gonna hold my tongue.
All right, we're gonna get to it, and I want you to know also, everybody, that once we get done with verse 5, I'm gonna go back to verse 4 because I skipped it on accident, so I'm gonna go back to that. But anyway, Sister Sean, what do you think about verse 5? Because we won't lose the flow at all. So I'm gonna do verse 5, and continue with that, and then we'll go to verse 4. Sean, what do you think about verse 5? What is he saying there?
Yeah, I think kind of in par with free indeed, but I think Job is saying that those who are comfortable, they often, underestimate suffering, and they judge the hurting, which was basically what Job's friends were doing. It's easy to judge suffering when you aren't the one suffering.
Right.
So
yeah, so here's what's happening here in verse 5. Job says, first off, he says, he that is ready to slip with his feet is as a lamp despised. So Job is equating a lamp that is despised with someone who is about to slip, ready to slip with his feet. Now, here's the thing. First thing I want to point out, he uses the term slipping. He uses the term slipping. And there's a reason why he uses that term slipping. Because like somebody already wrote in the comments, someone who's lost their footing. Slipping is not intentional. When you're walking, when you say somebody slipped, no one ever looks at this as something you do intentionally. So Job is seeing himself as someone who is ready to slip or is slipping. That's what he's doing. And now he's comparing that with being like a lamp that is despised. Well, what does a lamp do? A lamp provides light, right? A lamp provides light, whether it's a fire, it's a light bulb or whatever. But here's the best way for us to understand it. Because all of us have light bulbs in our homes. We have the good fortune of being able to have light in our homes. But when you put a light bulb and it's been in your house for a while, what Job is talking about is what happens to the person who is sitting under the ease of having that light. What happens when that light begins to flicker and flutter because it's about to be worn out, go out? What do you do with the light when it starts to do that? I just happen to have one of those lights in one of my bathrooms where it's flickering, which signals it's time to change. And so what happens is, what do you do with the lamp that is despised? Because Job is comparing himself to a lamp that is despised. So Meg, go ahead. What do you think?
I just put in the comments, so someone who is sharing light and wise and close to the Lord in their faith, when they start to slip, meaning not that the light has gone out, but that it needs encouragement. Here you guys are holding me in contempt. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it.
Right. I mean, he is comparing himself to someone. Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead. Before I say it, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
So okay, question. I like what Meg just said. So are they accusing him of his faith starting to slip?
No, Job is the one with this right here. He's the one comparing himself to a lamp despised. He's the one, he himself is being the one despised, and he's talking about a lamp, comparing it to him.
But I mean, is he saying to them, you're comparing me this way? Is he saying they think that his faith is failing, that he's slipping, and he, as the lamp despised? You might have to break this down to me.
Yeah. Here's what he's doing. First of all, let's look at the comparison. He that is ready to slip. that in his feet. That's him. Job. Job is comparing himself as the lamp despised. And he says that the thought of him that is at ease, when they see the light start to diminish, right? When they despise it. So what Job is saying is that you see my light dimming and you despise me. You're not doing anything to help me. You despise me. Now, typically in those times, of course, they didn't have electricity. So light was done with lamps, so you had to go physically light it. In other words, they are not contributing to building him up at all and restoring his light. What they're doing is they see his light diminishing. He calls it slipping. And he says, and he's telling them, you are at ease, and now you despise me because my light is flickering and withering out in your estimation. This is what he's saying. And it's a really complex verse, but it's really heavy what Job is saying. And he's showing you, we see here in a verse like this, how elevated he is in his understanding, because it is very heavy. And he uses his words very carefully. He says slip. He's not saying that I am going back to the world. I don't want to worship God anymore. He's saying that I'm walking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I caught a banana peel. I slipped. I slipped. This is not something that is intentional. No one intentionally slips. Otherwise, you wouldn't call it slip. He didn't throw himself down to the situation. He's slipping. He's lost his footing. He tripped. And he's using that language in a metaphorical sense. And so he tells these guys, and you are despising me just like you do a lamp that the light is being flickered out. You see me as a light that is flickering and is on its way out. And now you despise me. And you are at ease. And you're having your ease, and now you're looking down on me because my light is being extinguished. Sister Meg, go ahead. Megan and Sean.
All right, this clarified it. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 2. He that walketh in his uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despiseth him. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them.
Yep. Okay.
So,
interpret.
Okay. So when it says, he that walketh in uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despise him. So somebody who is walking upright and fearing the Lord will see somebody that is upright and feareth the Lord, but the way in which they think,
which is how?
Which is perverse. It's perverse biblically is what I mean, not like a pervert.
Right.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So if their understanding is not what they heard from the wise one, that will despise him because he sees somebody who fears the Lord, may be jealous of the knowledge that they hold, and then see him differently.
Well, I think what's happening here, because you're going down the right path for sure, because they are despising Job for a reason that is not justifiable nor verifiable. They have no real indictment against Job. And Job is saying that what you are assuming is that there is something that I have done that is intentional, that I intentionally had done and intentionally hid. And you made this wholesale assessment about that regarding me. And Job is saying that is not true. What I am experiencing is a slip.
But also,
go ahead.
But also in verse 3, it said, in the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Hence what Job did in the previous verse. He said, but I have understanding as well as you, but I am not inferior to you. Yeah, whose knowledge knows things such as these. So even though they may have been right in the way that they were speaking, their Job preserved them in the fact that he did not put himself above them. He put himself at the same level as them. He didn't think more highly than himself.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. He even in his attack back, he's giving them credit that they probably don't deserve, as Sean was saying. They don't deserve it. But he is still exercising humility even in his attack back, or his in his offense against them. Sister Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, and the lamp really is like, I would look at it as the light in them, the wisdom, the experience, the worth. All that is being ignored because now I'm suffering, right? He says, they're at ease, they're not suffering. And Job is slipping with his feet, and they see him not as this lamp of wisdom as they once did, but as something despised.
Right.
So,
Amen, sister. Amen. We're nailing it tonight. Sister Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, my question. I know you might have to beat this thing till, how does it go? Beat it till it's a dead horse. I don't know how the saying goes. Anyway, Job is an innocent man in this thing.
scenario.
He knows he is. In this scenario, he's blameless. Right. He knows he is. So why does he compare himself? Why does he say his feet are slipping? He's done nothing. Is he saying he's? I know that I get the light. I'm in agreement with Sister Sean on the light within us, but even his light, his faith hasn't wavered.
No, it hasn't.
So why is he saying that he's ready that he's comparing himself, thinking he may slip? Does he? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Here's what he's doing. He's not saying anything. He's not making any kind of a sinful confession. That's not what he's doing. But he's talking about what it looks like to his friends. Okay. He's talking about what it looks like. In other words, he lost everything. He lost his family. His wife turned on him. He lost his property. He lost his wealth. He lost his job. He lost his health. Right? He all these things. So he's talking about what it looks like, and he uses the language of slipping to address the way it appears to them. Look what he says. Okay. He says, he that is ready to slip with his feet is as the lamp that is despised in the thought of him who is at ease. That's what they think.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Got it now.
You see what I'm saying? This is how they're seeing it. And he says, he goes, you are seeing me the same way you look at a despised lamp when it flickers and is on its way out, and there's no more fuel to keep it going. You see me as having light at one time that is now being diminished and extinguished. That's how you see me. That's what he says here. You see this lamp despised. You see me as a lamp despised in your thoughts. You being those who are at ease. You guys are all at ease, and now you see me as a lamp to be despised. That's what he's saying.
Thank you so much.
Make sense? All right.
Yes, sir. Very.
All right. Somebody else had, did anybody else have their hand up? I wasn't sure. Let me see. Oh,
It's okay, go on.
no, go ahead, Mariah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the same thing, that it is the thought of his friends.
Yes.
That he is going or doing these things, that he has slipped, but it's not him that slipped. It's just because he lost his things that it looks like he has slipped.
That's right. That's exactly what he's doing. And he makes it clear. He says that, you see me as a lamp despised in your thoughts. Those of you who are at ease, that's how you see me now. And so, and what he's saying is, and what he's observing and bringing out to them is that you who are at ease, you despise the afflicted. What he's saying is that though when somebody's afflicted, when people who are afflicted are always looked down upon by those who are at ease. This is something that we in this country need to get our heads wrapped around, because our country that we all love, we have our heads up the collective rear end. And I know that's crude, but I'm saying we put so much emphasis on wealth and the wealthy. Everything that we talk about is about the economy. It is about wealth. It is about money, what I have and what I can gain and what I don't have. This is what our whole society is built around. And what he says is that what Job is saying is that the wealthy, those who are at ease, those who are comfortable, have a tendency to look down on those who are afflicted as though they were a lamp to be despised. That's what he's saying. When a lamp, when it burns brightly, it is useful. It is honorable, or honored, I should say. But when it grows dim, when it starts flickering, and when it is near extinguished, it becomes neglected, it becomes slighted, and it is treated as we treat light bulbs. They're disposable. Disposable. Those who are at ease see the afflicted as disposable. They slight them. They neglect them. And we tell them, well, you should have pulled up your bootstraps. This is essentially what they're telling Job. Admit it. Do this, do that, and then you'll get your wealth restored to you. What Job is pointing out here is that prosperity breeds contempt for those who are suffering. Somehow indicating and telling Job that misfortune itself is the proof of your guilt. What these men are saying to Job is that your misfortune is the evidence. It's the evidence. It's the proof that you must be guilty, Job. You must be guilty. You had to do something. How many times have you guys heard this when you have gone through a hard time? You must have done something wrong. Remember what we talked about? If you see your neighbor getting arrested, even though they didn't do anything, you are never going to believe that even though they got off and came back home, you're never going to believe, or you're never going to not be suspicious anymore. You're going to always assume that, well, if they got picked up, even if they came back home, when they got picked up, it must have been something that warranted it. They had to be involved some kind of way in order for the police to show up to the house and take them away in handcuffs. They go to the jail. They find out they got the wrong person. They uncuff them. They take them back home. But now the neighbors are still thinking that he is not above reproach, that there's something that he must have done or she must have done in order to be picked up. And now you have to live with that. And this is one of the complaints that people will make when they've been arrested or something like this happens. Look what you're doing. You're ruining my reputation. You've ruined it. Now all my neighbors are going to think that I'm somehow tied up with crime. This is what people do. The secure people who are at ease, like in Job 5, people who are at ease and secure in their lifestyle and everything is comfortable. These people have a tendency to mock those who are fallen or who are made low, pushing them further into ruin rather than extending compassion and seeing if there's anything that they are willing to do to help uplift this person and help improve the world just a little bit. Just a little bit. Job doesn't just indict his friends, but he also indicts the broader part of the human tendency to equate comfort with virtue. This is secular, human, and carnal thinking. To equate having a life of ease as being emblematic of virtue, morality, and for some, even holiness. But if you really want to see where God is, visit the afflicted. Visit the person who is imprisoned. Even if they did something wrong. Visit the sick. Visit the sick. Visit the mother who is struggling raising her kids because her lazy husband has left and doesn't want to do anything but chase other women and drink and smoke and do whatever else he wants to do. People don't do this anymore. And I'm talking about Christians. We're making pastors rich. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Joel Osteen bought a house for $200 million. And when Hurricane Katrina he didn't want to let people come into the stadium that he owned for the church services. Go look it up. That's what he did. He wouldn't help people come out of these floods. He was too worried about his reputation amongst these people that are giving him, allowing him to have his platform to do what he does. But it's a wicked thing to do.